Because in the history of our problems, quote, if we have those problems, if you never speak against the outsider, which is a white person, then it means that you don't understand what's going on. So to your question, what is the problem holding back? First of all, this is what I'm trying to communicate to the world, both sides, that we must begin to look at the continent, not as just any other people, but rather a culture. And if we come to that understanding, we will stop looking at the people and their behaviors and start taking a different approach to how we work with the countries in Africa, even the Africans themselves, if they would ever admit or acknowledge that it's a problem of culture. Nothing is holding them back. That would mean that they're not supposed to be where they are. How do we know? Were they ever somewhere else? And we are trying to point to where they used to be and saying, therefore, they are being held back. Now, let's take, for example, I love anecdotes and analogies because it helps me explain things properly. In the last 10 or 12 years, there's a gentleman from Jamaica stormed the world, which is Usain Bolt, the 100-meter dash superstar. So you could tell from the Olympics in Beijing and then, of course, later on in Brazil, if he starts losing the second, instead of 10.58, is now going at 14, you would say something is holding Usain Bolt back because you have a frame of reference. So when we say Africa is being held back, the question is, from what and when did it start?
So the continent then is not being held back, but nobody can dispute that it's not seeing its true potential. You've got a young population that is willing to work, to grow. You've got natural resources. You've got everything that you could want to have in a successful continent and broken up into the countries. Why then is Africa constantly at the bottom of the pile when it comes to achievements?
Well, I'm going to disappoint you because we have also created a narrative which is not allowing for the proper solutions to be brought in. So when you say the continent is at the bottom, but there is a problem already, should we say the continent is on the side, meaning Africa is traveling in parallel with other people? Now let me ask you, do you have another Africa on Mother Earth that is doing well than the Africa we're talking about? No, is the answer. So then what are you comparing it to saying they have the potential? How do we know they have the potential? Who has ever not used his or her potential if he or she has one? That's the thing. If you understand where I'm coming from, I'm trying to say we got to change the way we are observing this continent that has this peculiar problem. There is no other Africa on Earth where we can say, well, look at that other Africa. You have only one Africa that has a peculiar condition. The only way you can change that condition is to first accept maybe this is all they can do. And if someone is interested that if Africa moves from where it is, we will benefit. That is some other people, which I believe the European countries, they are beating their heads every day, waiting for Africa to move to the middle class level so they can send in tons of manufactured goods and the European countries will become rich. So if there is any one group of people who pray every Sunday for Africa to become good, will be European countries, because then they will send their manufacturing goods 20 times what they are doing now. So in my argument and debate with friends, I have said this over, but they won't listen to me. If there is any one group of people who wants Africa to grow 1.3 billion and growing, that's a huge population. No manufacturer or no country that has manufacturing export goods would ever want to hold down that population. You rather want them to rise up because nothing comes out of Africa as a manufactured export goods. They will buy everything from Europe: automobiles, televisions, hospital equipment, pharmaceuticals, clothing, fashion, everything. So the companies are losing and waiting for this market to just grow. When China was growing, everybody knew it. One single country with 1.6 billion. It would be stupid for the United States, France, Germany, any European country to say, let's not allow the Chinese to grow. Today, if you manufacture anything and you want to export it, all you need is 0.1% of China, and you are the next day. This should change, Mike. What we are saying about Africa, like you use it to reach their potential. How do you know they have that potential? Now, some of the black fellows who are going to listen to this conversation would say, we do. It is our politicians. I do not believe. Let me tell you something. I lived in South Korea for 2 years. You can't get any corrupt politicians or corporate leaders more than Korea. Do you know how many CEOs of Korean companies have gone to jail for corruption? How many even presidents have gone to jail for corruption? But the country is not poor. Now you want to talk about Ukraine. They have a whole new flag. They wave side by side the national flag for corruption. But Ukraine is not poor. So corruption never makes any country poor. Countries grow bottom up, not top down. Politicians do not develop countries. That nobody goes to school to learn how to develop a place. No, never. Politicians they never develop a country. They don't even know 99% of the things people do on the ground to develop a country. So the people elect a politician and give him a job description which says, listen, we got potential and we want you to be a referee over us and make sure the rules are fair. But if the people don't have any potential to build anything or to play any game, and you choose a referee, well, he's going to be corrupt because he'll be lazy in office. Because he looks down, nobody's playing any game for him to referee. So what will he do? That is when you start calling them corrupt. The point I'm trying to make is this. You are looking at a culture. And the things that would make a place, use the word industrialize or develop, it is possible. It's not in the genes of that population. What is killing Africa, if I should answer your question, is one, not the failure, but the inability to acknowledge that what people are expecting, or even they themselves are expecting to do, which is build a country, it's not in them. They need, right to speak, what would change that continent? It's if they can go beyond the ego and open the doors to those who have been able to build their countries and administer it and maintain it and make them contractors See, white South Africans were uninvited contractors, and they built South Africa to the level of an European country. We all saw it. A tiny less than 10% of the South African, tiny population of white people. Now, I'm not giving white people any credit or value whatsoever. They just happen to come from an environment or a climate that has forced them to become very inventive and, industrializers. Now, if over thousands, your brain has been forced to do so, wherever they place you, you would immediately industrialize that place out of fear. Okay, so the experiment has been carried, and anyone who refuses to see this experiment really is not doing Africa any favors. The experiment is a handful of white people, less than 10% of the then region, the 7 or 12 tribes combined, the Zulus, the Xhosas, whatever. And they took that land to the level of an European country. Okay, a group of people said, well, bitch us, just like we did in West Africa, Central Africa, everywhere. And 32 years ago, they gave it to them. And then we all witnessed it, like a football game or a rugby game. Slowly, the entire structure was torn down. When I came to Durban, I was taken to the Durban train station. Oh my God, it's massive. And my host was telling me how trains run from Durban to Mozambique or all the neighboring countries fast. I mean, it was a massive station, double-decker buses outside the train station. The walls were cracking. The floors were cracking. The place was empty. Trains were dead on the rail lines. Now, I am not excusing apartheid. No, I don't know anything about it. I don't want to talk about it. When I was there, both black and white people explained to me deeply what apartheid really meant. The world doesn't understand what it meant. They compare it to Gaza, they compare it to colonization. But I had the opportunity to sit with both white and black scholars in South Africa who told me what apartheid meant and why apartheid was always there. Except some idiot decided to make it a law. And that's when people say, so they were fighting against a law that had no physical effect on the people because it has always been there. Okay, so that was the problem. But I'm saying in terms of developing a country or industrializing a place, if 54 countries in one continent and about 13 of them in the Caribbean, and the pockets of those same race, blacks, in Europe, in America. And you, Mike, who've traveled the world, you've not seen any place that has been industrialized, providing its citizens with the basics, shelter, food, and clothing perfectly. Why are we still here discussing that they can reach their potential, but they choose not to?
Yeah, okay. So that was where to from here. This is what Africa wants to be. Leave it alone, ring fence it, move
Good
on to
question.
places.
No, Africa doesn't want to be. They don't want to. Nobody knows what the problem is. It is like you tell a doctor you have a problem you don't have, and he's trying to cure you. When would he stop? That's the problem. Africa doesn't want to be. What we need to do, let's say, for example, the guy who said, after everybody for hundreds of years believed that the earth was flat, and common sense, if you look at the damn thing, it was flat. Only one person said it's not flat. You think the same day they accepted it? No. They almost killed the guy. Everybody thought he was crazy. Okay, did we finally come to accept it not flat? Yes, we did. So the conversation you and I are having are a very important conversation. Some young fellow out there, whether white or black, in any country, is going to say, I heard something that told me we can't change the narrative and start looking at the solution from a different point. Here is the one thing I am saying. White people living in South Africa, white people living in America, in the UK, France, they got to stop this babying black people as if you are with the milk and, oh my God, he's hungry, feed him. That's disingenuous and a little bit of condescending. And I think that is what is not bridging the gap. Okay? Because you see, what is funny in this one is a helpless person needs help, but he doesn't want to be told that he's helpless. So what we need to do is begin to have a conversation in a different way. Now, are you going to win with Julius Malema? No, you're not going to win with him. No, the ego won't allow it. Number two, he has spoken too soon that his ego will not allow him to change his tune. This is where we are. That is why I don't like interviewing people who have written, unless the book is interesting, scientific, and I want you to explain it to my audience. But if some of the topics, like for example, if I brought on somebody who's written a book condemning Europeans for being the cause of Africa, well, he's the Jehovah's Witness. I'm never going to change his mind. And that is where we are right now. Most of the politicians and the activists in South Africa, in the blacks in America, in Africa, they've spoken too soon. The only people who sell books when they admit they're wrong are scientists. You remember Stephen Hawking, right? He wrote The Brief History of Time. 38 years later, he wrote another book claiming that he was wrong in the first book. And God, they bought the book more than the first one. And you ask yourself, if a doctor made a mistake and you write a book and said, here is how I made a mistake and killed Mike, he'll be out of work. But scientists, when they admit they were wrong, is when they become popular. It's not the same with activists. It's not the same with politicians. It's not the same with religious people. And this is where we are. The activists on the continent of Africa, in South Africa, in the United States, they've spoken too soon. The people they were blaming for the last 70 years, everybody knows as I speak with you, this is nothing to do with Europeans anymore. There is no probability in any science that works so consistent every year for the last 100 years. No. Let's stop looking at it as a unit and look at it as a whole continent, Mike. That is not people who are redeveloped, who are refusing to improve. No. Who wants to see a 3-year-old die from curable disease? Who wants to see that when your wife goes into labor, you're holding your heart because she may die? Who wants to see people living in Soweto and in slums in Kenya and be happy about it? Nobody. I don't. My family lives in Ghana and some of them in Benin. When I call, sometimes I don't pick the phone because when I see the phone call coming from Africa, my heart is beating because it's going to be a problem. But why? I am speaking about what can change our countries. I don't have a solution. And I see stupid comments like, why are you not on the continent fixing it? Well, it's saying the buildings are breaking down. And if you're a medical doctor, they're asking you why are you not on the continent saving the buildings. I didn't tell anybody I know how to fix a country, but I am a critical thinker. And I know the problem is not what we're talking about. It's not. It's not in the hands of politicians. It's not even in the hands of the masses. the experiment has been carried out in South Africa. And I think if there is a God, he intentionally created that experiment between white and black in order to show the rest of the continent what they need to do. Here, I give you an example. The Arabs, the only thing they know we don't know is they understand their own potential. Well, they've lived on the desert for thousands of years. They can manipulate that place like nobody, all right? On horseback, camelback, Bedouins and all. They know that. So when they discovered oil, what did they do? They looked around and saw people like you who drive in big four-legged cars in Europe. And they said, well, these people must know something about this liquid. So they brought the same country, UK and America, that once colonized them. They brought them to say, come, let's work because you can make this. And look at the Middle East. Dubai, for example, is an example of what is called contractor colonization. They knew that we needed to build a place in order to make more money. But we don't know, we're not technocrats. So the buildings you see there, the roads you see there, the restaurants and these five-star hotels were built by countries, companies from countries, not countries, but companies from countries. The water system is owned German company, right? Who used the process of desalinization to now provide Dubai, which in 1964, Dubai, that region was the most water-starved region in the world. The Congo alone has more water than the entire region of the UAE. But no child can drink a pure, clean cup of water, glass of water per day in the Congo. Dubai today, in the most water-starved region. Today, Dubai is the most water consumption place on earth because they invited a company from Germany to use the ocean and turn it into pure water. Mr. Juice, who is going to come on my show December 9 from the Orania Project, okay? He said, well, if you didn't see the experiment from the whole country, let me show it to you again. So he moved away and bought a desert, and he turned that place into a self-reliant community for his people. What more do we want to see to understand the problem is this? I'm an African, born and raised in Africa. I'm not American culturally. No. So I'm not speaking here to say white people are better in this and black people. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying what can change my continent. I would love to be in Africa. You know how wonderful it is to be in the warm weather with surrounded by everything. Not to be in this cold place and think it's Christmas, but here I am. Maybe the only thing, my traveling abroad in the world and now stationed in the United States, maybe the only thing that has come out of it is that I have launched a platform. And the letters I'm receiving, the comments I'm receiving from South Africa, Australia, you name it, is telling me slowly we are coming to the place where soon the people may begin to rethink what is the problem of Africa. So I attended a conference recently. That was July in Massachusetts, and it was called the All African Convention. I had refused when I saw PLO Lubumba as one of the panel speakers. I knew exactly what the theme was going to be. It was going to be a festival of finger pointing. And I said I wasn't going to come. The organizers insisted I came. I waited and heard 5 speakers spewing, who people were quoting, you name it, books about how Africa was underdeveloped by Europe, on and on and on. So when I got on stage, I actually said, I've been listening to speakers all morning. I have not heard one speaker say, what is the problem of Africa? What is it? I think that question. But if you ask that question, nobody is patient enough to wait. Look, doctor will tell you you have diabetes. A doctor will tell you you have sickle cell, you have cancer. One word to describe your problem. We got to find the word to describe the problem and start the solution.